Just want to go over a few things with the H5C Jjrc Quadcopter. Now, in previous videos, I showed you that I extended the antenna. I mean, there's quite a few videos on that already, so I'm not going to really get into that. If you want to extend your range, you could do it. But I was ready to extend the range of the quadcopter itself by adding a longer antenna to the internal antenna. I'd have to desolder and resolder. But I had about 11 flights, and some of those days were windy, so I guess I wore out the motor, and that's what I want to talk about, the motors. I took the motor out, I squeezed the side of it, and I had my throttle set very little bit. So these three were spinning, and I held the motor and squeezed on the side of it in a certain area. You know, you gotta squeeze around and find that point where the motor's gonna rev up full speed, and squeeze a little extra harder to keep it that way, you know. And that's what I did. So I was able to get a little flight in today, but not much. When you press the motor through this casing, it does something to it. When you squeeze it, it does something to unsqueeze it a little bit. But anyway, the problem I don't think is with the motor. It's like, I don't think we have to buy new motors. It's just the wire and the cap of the motor itself that gets warped, I believe, you know, from flying it. You know, flying it in winds, flying it hard. And it gets a little warped because those wires in this little black cap right there are very thin. And when they heat, they expand away from the motor. And by squeezing, you kind of twist in the inside of that motor to make contact with that one that warped out and the other one in a certain way. So I think if we could just get the caps and the wire, it would be a lot cheaper to replace than the whole motor. And because it just clips on. But they're just selling the whole motors, you know, because they make more money doing it. But that's the problem, is the clips in the motor are real cheap, and they heat up and warp, and you know. So that's the problem, I think, with these motors. Because I did get the new camera. Banggood sent me a brand new camera because the one I had was completely out of focus. It just wouldn't focus at all. I complained about it. They sent me a new one, but I never got to try it yet. So I'm like, these three motors are running properly, and I was able to get a small flight in today, but it's kind of windy, and it was very hard to do, and the thing crashed again, and the motor stopped running. So it's going to be a problem. I mean, you can get motors for these on eBay. They're fairly cheap, you know. So I'm just thinking I'm going to replace the motors and be done with it. But I'd rather just replace the cap on top, you know. See, I don't even have a bolt. I got this thing apart so many times, and I have to keep squeezing the motor. So it's like I have to keep taking it apart, so I didn't bother putting the screws in. I kind of just snapped everything in place, you know. And it's a black and white motor on this one. That went bad. So that's the one I have to replace. But it's like, do I want to just get the one motor, or you know, what about these other ones? When I replace this one's new, something on here is going to go, right? Probably this side. You know, it's probably going to go. So it's like, I'm going to replace the set, and I'm going to have a spare set for these. So I have to order all 4 motors. Probably be around 10 bucks, you know. But for 11 flights, is it worth it? You know, that's my other point. You fly it, you know, 11 flights till you drain the battery. It's going to blow a motor because you're going to have crashes involved because these things ain't that accurate. And so I definitely want to get the Phantom 3. The other motors are so much better than these little cylinder motors because they have a rotor inside that spin, you know, the rotor spins and the magnets are on the outside. These are a wire mesh with very tiny magnets inside. But that's the problem, guys. I just want to let everybody know. I did buy new, see those little round gears in there? I bought 4 new round gears, and that helped another motor. I think it was this side. It wasn't spinning. It wasn't the motor, but it was that little tiny gear you slide on the motor. So I replaced those and was able to get a very little flight in because the wind is very bad today. But by squeezing the motor, I was able to get it going again. And when you squeeze the motor, you're moving the motor a little bit around to where it's making contact with the 2 contacts in that black cap. And once I take this out and get the new one, I'm going to take this apart and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. There should be a better design for this motor, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to keep replacing motors every 11 times you use it. You know, you just want to grab it and go and use it. So that's a design fault on these motors. But anyway, when I get the new motors, I'm going to show you the difference between flying it this way and that way. I'm charging my battery now, otherwise I'd show you what it does. Sometimes you have to hit it to get it spinning, and it just don't spin up fast enough like the other motors are spinning, you know. It just don't spin fast enough. And it creates it to do this. It falls over this way because that's the motor that's having the problem. So, you know, if you have bad motors, get the motors and get the little gears also. You're going to want to change those too. That should go together. When you change the motors, change the little round gears because they do wear quite a bit. So anyway, this is my controller. There was a little tiny wire in here for an antenna. So I had a wireless modem. I had 2 antennas on it, so I took one out, connected it in here, I soldered it in, or you could twist it onto the other one and tape it really good, but I'd rather solder it because you have a solid connection instead of, you know, a little bit of loose connection, or solder 2 ends, two wires together. And really did it help to extend the range of this, and I can't wait to get it back up, try out the new camera that I got, and get some video. I want to get some video for this thing up in the air, you know. I know it's just, you know, the cheap model got from banggood.com, but you know, it took forever to get here. That's another problem. Why can't we make these in America? Because these things are very cheap. This is like a $10, $12 quadcopter that they want to charge you $50 for. You know? Even it's very cheap. So anyway, just going to end this video, and